where strategy gaming meets good vibes. No stress, just critical moves. Hi everyone, this is Tuti speaking of Critical Moves podcast. We have another exciting episode today for the Steam Next Fest that, when this episode is coming out, will be in full swing. And I'm joined here by Jack.
Hi everybody.
And a very special guest that features some of a game perhaps that is coming out here on the Steam Next Fest, Tatsu.
Hey everyone.
All right, Tatsu, this is your first time here on our podcast. Can you tell us a little bit, who are you?
I'm a little bit of a lost soul who ended up in video game developments. I'm really happy to be here. I mean, I've been a fan of video games since a very young age. Growing up, I saw them as a passion, as a refuge, and everything. And I kind of had trouble imagining that I'd one day develop video games. When I started to look seriously for work, I got into developments. It was business-to-business developments, mostly front-end web apps. And I did that for 4 years. And then there was COVID and the lockdown. And I was like, you know what, I feel like the plan for me to, one day switch into video game development is taking too long. And it always seems over that next hill. So let's get to it. Let's maybe take the time that I have, because I had a bunch of free time because of COVID lockdown and being between missions, they call it, or where they place you in different bigger companies. But you're still paid, right? You still belong to a smaller company that rents you out. I started a small project that I thought was just going to be a hobby, maybe open source and everything. That turned into Sanctuary Shattered Sun. Turned into, I'd say, a relatively interesting game with a sizable following. Somewhere between 14,000 or so followers on Discord, turned into quite a big project. 2 years ago, I stopped doing that, and I joined up with ZeroSpace, who needed a manager for their art team, but also somebody to consult them on how to run their Kickstarter campaign. So I did their Kickstarter campaign and then started managing their art team. Still doing that today. And then recently, a month ago, I started being the community manager for Ablight. And I'm still doing that as well. And now I, really dip my toes into video game dev. It's more of a vast field than I originally thought it was. Originally, I tended to have the same kind of idea or a set of notions that video game development is just code and maybe a little bit of art. But if you want to make a commercial project and make it profitable and everything, well, there's actually accounting, there's HR, there's management, there's negotiating with investors, creating a pitch deck, making a whole bunch of other little tasks that might seem like a nuisance, but that I started to feel quite at home with. I wore quite a number of hats in that period, and it was quickly no longer development and art that I was doing, but all those other jobs that you don't necessarily think about at first, but that are quite necessary if you want to sell a game. Of course, they don't necessarily apply in the open source worlds, but to a degree. I mean, like even open source projects, they need to market themselves a little bit, even if they are in the guerrilla marketing side of things. It still counts. So somebody needs to do that.
Wow, what a journey, and a lot of big names that you have there within the strategy game subgenre, I guess. No, and I would say the COVID period probably changed a lot of our lives. Glad to see that for you it went into like a very positive direction.
Yeah, thanks. It was a bit of a wake up call for me. I mean, there's many things. Trigger warning for those that might be concerned. But yeah, a friend of mine took his own life, but right before COVID started. And I mean, it was my best friend, and it really, shook me up. It was like, you know what, life is short. You gotta do stuff. You gotta, if you have passions, if you have dreams and stuff, you gotta start working towards them immediately, and not say it's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be, tomorrow, the day after. And it's always, further in the future, and then it ends up never happening. So yeah, that really woke me up quite a bit. And then of course, COVID was a situation that, helped me, get into gear, right? So yeah, it can have a positive influence. I know that it was, a lot of suffering for a lot of people as well. But yeah, at the same time, if it could set, people free, quote unquote. I mean, I've been hearing a lot about how, people were feeling more and more trapped in desk jobs and stuff like that. And, the advent of work from home, and also people just, flat out, deciding to change their career and to seek something else and everything like that, and trying to find more fulfilling jobs. All of that feels to me like, a positive influence that it had on people worldwide. So yeah.
Wow, no, sorry to hear about your friends. Incredible that you were able to get through that and then even almost take something out of it and use it as a power for yourself. That must have been really tough for you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm completely fine with it nowadays. That's why I can talk about it so openly. But yeah, he was a great influence to me, and he still really is. I mean, he was a masseur, taught me massage. And that's why I know how to do massage so well nowadays. Yeah, I possess a massage table, and I give a lot of massages to my friends and stuff, and trade it for other stuff or for other massages. Awesome. So yeah, he's still with me in a sense.
Wow, beautiful.
So sorry, I got us off track. But I want to know. I want to know a little bit about you guys, because this is the first time for me meeting you guys. So if you don't mind, and hopefully the listeners haven't heard this too many times over, but I'd like to hear about you guys. Yeah.
Well, hi Tatsu. It's nice to finally talk to you.
Hey.
I'm Jack here with Critical Moves. I think both Tim and I will probably introduce ourselves as game developers of a type here, and we're just really glad to have you on the podcast today.
No, absolutely. I guess we don't get to talk too much about ourselves or our personal life. We don't get asked that too much, but yeah, I mean, we're passionate about strategy games. I think all of us here. And personally, it's something that I've always been fascinated by. Since I was a kid, I would always try to come up with games that we could play together, even on the playgrounds or something. I like to figure out how to put a game together that would be engaging and fun, as a sort of entertainer of sorts, I guess. That's always been a passion of mine.
I love that. I can relate to that, actually. I wouldn't be necessarily doing it so much on the playground as in my own home with friends and my younger brother and sister, who I'd play Lego with. We had like a huge pile of Lego pieces and everything. And yeah, one of the things that I consistently do was like kind of create new, I guess, RTSs or board games within Lego. Yeah.
Yeah, exact same. That's really funny,
But,
actually.
Yeah.
Lego was amazing for that. It was like Minecraft from back in the day, right?
Yeah. Endlessly creative, and I think that like if I ever make it big, I think that's one of the things that I'll spend money on is a bunch of Lego. I can see myself like as an old person in I don't know, not necessarily an old home, but whatever. Maybe it's an old home, and I'm just playing with Legos, having the time of my life. But yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, if I'm allowed to ask questions and everything, but like what RTSs were you guys into?
You're allowed to do whatever you feel like. How's that?
Awesome.
That's also a great question.
So go ahead. What RTSs were you into? Jack, go first.
Sure, yeah. I mean, coming up, I've kind of talked about this on previous episodes, but for you, Tatsu, I'm one of probably the youngest member of Critical Moves here, so they kind of rag on me a lot as my journey kind of took off a lot later. My first few strategy games that I would have gotten into would have been really early Civilizations, Age of Empires 2, and Stronghold 2 was one that I reference a lot. So
Awesome.
Those are kind of the early beginnings for me.
Yeah. And by the way, you don't have to feel like self-conscious about like liking new titles or whatever. Like it's not a contest of we have the most OG tastes or whatever. Who cares, you know? whatever you're into is great. And I know that like RTSs are fewer and far between these days, but there still are a lot, and newer titles have their relevance, you know. So anyways, I love the ones you cited. And what about you, Ragnar?
Yeah, I played all the big names in the 90s, you know, the Blizzard games, Age of Empires, and so on. There's not a lot of strategy games I didn't play, I would say, but the one that I came back to again and again is the precursor to Beyond All Reason. So after Total Annihilation, around the same time as Supreme Commander, this was this like underground, what it felt like, game of like remade Total Annihilation.
Yep.
It was called Balanced Annihilation for the longest time. And I played that, and I've been playing that for 20 years now. And I've had so much fun with that. And it's like the competitive multiplayer epitome of strategy game, I would say.
Yeah, it really surprised me when I first learned that Spring came out at the same time, basically as a Supreme Commander. I was like, wow,
it did,
really?
Yeah.
And it's like it's almost like, well, how then did it not take off more? You know, I can understand like okay, I guess like, you know, open source never had the same marketing budget as big commercial titles. But you know, at the same time, it's very interesting that there were both the open source and commercial options available at the same exact time. And it's incredible to see what how these have evolved over time and how they've come back, I guess into relevance. Probably that's not the right term, but I don't know. There's a similar situation, you could say, with the advent of Sanctuary and Bar, although now, let's be fair, Bar is absolutely killing it. They're so successful.
We have an ongoing joke on the podcast here where we we joke a lot that Bar is like the best game out there, because I mean I'm involved with Bar, so I shill for it quite regularly.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'd do the same in your position.
So no, I guess a question for you then is like, when you're involved with the games that you are in now, you mentioned some pretty exciting games like ZeroSpace. What are some RTS games that inspired you, where you're like, I want to take something from that, and maybe like it has influenced you in how you see the development of current games?
Well, you mean like in my childhood and everything like that, right?
Anything really.
Okay, because I think that's the answer for me. Is like I was really it was a really strong influence in gaming for me in general. Like when I was discovering video games, it kind of happened simultaneously for me. Like I think it was really fortunate that it happened simultaneously. That I was discovering console games and computer games at the same time. So I didn't have a console in my household, never did actually. But my next door neighbors that I would often go over to their house to, play basketball with them or whatever, they rented out the first PlayStation. Because back then, like first and foremost, you couldn't buy them; you had to rent them out. So, oh my god, I sound like an old person. Anyways, and so we played Final Fantasy VII and stuff like that on it. And Bouncer, that was completely irrelevant title. There was Twisted Metal and whatnot. Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Halo, obviously, a bunch of stuff like that, which I played that at my Taekwondo place, and then simultaneously I put together a computer with my dad. So my dad brought home from work various computer parts from the work computers that were defunct or unused, and like from that he showed me how computers are basically Lego. You can put the different pieces together and make a functional computer. Now I didn't really understand it fully, but I started to get a real hang of it. And anyways, I'm getting off track. First game that I ever played on the PC was, I believe, Homeworld. And immediately during the tutorial, I had kind of like a moment of like, this is too much, this is overwhelming. I was like, I'm losing, because I didn't know how to, I was like, oh, you're under attack and everything. And I don't want to be under attack. And I was, kind of like, kind of not able to manage my child emotions, I guess, in that moment. But kind of like, so I hopped from that onto StarCraft and StarCraft Brood War, which I really enjoyed. I played a lot of that. I found it to be very, very immersive. I found the lore to be rich. I don't know. I just liked the cutscenes a lot, and the gameplay. It was just super. They had quite a hook. They knew how to make their stuff back then. Blizzard did. And then I after I guess reading a bit of the Homeworld manual, because the copy of Homeworld that we bought came with the manual and everything. I hopped back into it, and then I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I played it through to the end, where I was like left in tears. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. I really didn't expect that. It was, such a masterpiece in so many ways. I mean, obviously there's the gameplay, but then there's the music, there's the aesthetic, there's the lore, there's the story, there's, it has, I mean, for the time, it was basically a flawless game, right? It was absolutely a masterpiece in every respect. And so many different arts came together to make it what it is. I have just the utmost respect for what they did. And I think it really hit me really hard. I was talking earlier about how, I would play with Lego. So, Lego was already a big thing. And then, I played Homeworld, and then I found myself making a whole bunch of motherships and a whole bunch of little ships with Lego and stuff. And I just play a ton of that. And then with paper and everything, I'd set the rules. I create the interface for my little brother to play with me and stuff like that. I was I was really, really heavily into the lore and everything of that game. Very, very immersed. I really liked everything about it. And interestingly enough, it was my first this title that I was like really into. I mean, I was also really into Brood War, but Homeworlds, I was really into it, but it was part of the subgenre of Sim Pro RTS. I like to call it Sim Pro RTS or Simulated Projectile RTS. You could also call it RTS with strategic zoom, which technically also fits the bill. It's, the total annihilation, the whole, that whole genre. So there's quite a few titles that fit the bill, and Homeworld 1 happens to fit it because it did have simulated projectiles, which they, removed in 2. But yeah, it was a bit of a clunky implementation of it, but still counts. And, flowing economy or flow economy, strategic zoom, again, a bit of a clunky interpretation of it, but still counts. The whole set of principles that you have from, I guess, the Total Annihilation family tree. And that's absolutely fantastic. And I think like subconsciously throughout my, formative years, I was looking for other games that were like that. And so, yeah, it was a really big deal to me when Homeworld 2 came out. That hit around the time that I was in high school, I believe. And I kind of like completed it. Felt a little bit, well, didn't do the whole campaign, but felt quite dissatisfied with it, I guess, compared to Homeworld 1. And then started kind of furiously searching for something else that would scratch that itch. And came upon Nexus, the Jupiter Project, and stuff like that, or Jupiter Incident. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's not really RTS. They kept kind of labeling it as that, because I was really looking for. I was like, I guess I need space RTS, because it's like it's got everything. It's got on top of being this like behemoth of complexity and everything. It's got 3 axes of dimensions to operate in. And, what can top that, right? Like, and so to me, I thought that was like my main criteria and everything. And I didn't realize at the time that like what really hooked me most was, the flow-based economy and the basically, limitless, amount of units that you could have. I mean, it's a whole, trick to get over the unit cap in Homeworld, but you totally could. Having, big armies and stuff like that. I mean, like with the Star Wars mod, I don't know if you messed with that with Homeworld. You could throw huge armies at one another. It was a lot of fun to watch those big cinematic battles, and I guess that's what I was going for. And so, yeah, long story short, I ran through a whole bunch of games, just basically every Command and Conquer, every just a whole slew of titles before I finally stumbled through a YouTube video on Supreme Commander, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun looking cinematic and everything, but I wonder what the actual game is like. And then when I actually finally bought it off eBay at the time, and installed it and played it, I was like, oh, so the actual game is this, cinematic experience 100% of the time. This thing of projectiles that you see going at each other and everything, that's the whole game. No way. That's amazing. So yeah, I immediately had a really, really good time and kind of found my home there, I guess. And so, yeah, I played a whole lot of that, and that was the first game with which I really, dipped more than like a pinky toe into multiplayer. And yeah, immediately got my ass whooped, but became addicted to that. I was like, this is amazing. This is actually a lot of fun. I don't mind losing, because it's like, it's really, it's challenging in all the right ways. I never really became excellent at the game, but I progressed, and the feeling of progression was great. It's like it felt like I was building onto myself, and I always really loved that compared to like a lot of games that were like, massively multiplayer RPGs or games like that where, you kind of build up a character in the game and get him more points and stuff like that. And then that, character becomes stronger. And then you kind of have to,
it's more about grinding than skill, learning skill. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that, character becomes associated with you, and then you can lose it or start from the beginning or from scratch and everything like that. But then, it's only ever kind of a value, a number. And it doesn't really say much about you. Like people did that. They would sell accounts. You could, give that account over to somebody else, and then suddenly he's the one with the big number, right? It really said nothing about like your skill. Like anybody else could take your character and play almost just as good. Most of it was the numbers, in that file, right? Whereas with strategy games, it was always the player behind the account that mattered, right? Like, I thought that was interesting. I love that there was real strategy to the games, to each match. People would invent new methods of defeating their opponents, and they could do that on the fly, on the spot. That I thought was really amazing and really interesting, and carried with it. It necessarily meant that the game itself was really deep. So those were, I think, the most influential titles that bear mentioning, and those that are, the ones that I drew the most inspiration from. When I, started making Sanctuary, originally I knew that I wanted to make an RTS title, even as a hobby project. I just at least wanted to mess around with something that had, at the very least, strategic zoom, right? And I knew that as a whole, RTS was an ambitious genre. Simulated projectile RTS as a subgenre, even more so. But yeah, as the project and interest grew and everything, it just turned into a full-fledged, Supreme Commander, a spiritual successor. And I was like, you know what? I'm fine with that. This is, really my identity, and I'm just pouring my identity into this project. If we can pull it off, hell yeah. So yeah, sorry, that turned into a bit of a long answer.
No sorries.
But yeah, there were a number of titles that influenced me that are, outside of the RTS genre, obviously, but, I feel like they don't need mentioning as much.
I'm sometimes still surprised when new RTSs come out and they don't have the strategic zoom. I'm like, come on, guys, put that in, put the strategic zoom in. We all want it.
It's not mainstream. It's not something that a lot of people have been exposed to, and it should. Yeah, absolutely. But you have to take into account that it is kind of a strong stimuli. It's a lot of information to intake, and sometimes, as evidenced by the global tournaments of Excel spreadsheets. There are people that go for overabundance of stimuli and strong amounts of and big amounts of information thrown at them and everything like that. But it's an acquired taste, right? And I think you have to ease people into that. A lot of these games don't really do that. I think that Homeworld does that it allows people to ease themselves into that. And even still, a lot of people, I think, would say that even that. Homeworld 3 is or even 2 or 1 are they have a lot of things going on at once, kind of hard to handle.
I think the third axis makes it really tough to get into.
No, yeah, that's true. The third axis is like kind of crazy, and I'm the kind of person who's like more when Planetary Annihilation was announced, and they were like, oh yeah, let's put it on a sphere and handle a whole bunch of different planets at once. So I was like, yes, hell yeah, and a whole bunch of people were like, you know what, maybe tone it down, right? Because there's already a lot of things to handle with all these titles. But yeah. No, I agree. I'm definitely 100% on board with strategic zoom. I think that every RTS should have it and everything. I'm 100% part of that, mob, you should say. But I understand I understand the opposing viewpoint. I understand why, people get more familiar and more used to, games like, Command and Conquer.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of went through, like we asked, you kind of went through all these different, like this exploratory period of your life where you were playing games, but you were distinctly noting things that like an impression that they had left on you as you made your journey, not just through your life, your journey through the industry of strategy games, but like on your way to this game dev career that you'd have now. I mean, I think I'm just curious, how does that kind of apply to your own games at this point? You mentioned before, you kind of prefaced that you've worked on multiple titles across strategy games now. Like, if you could phrase it the same way, what are some lessons that you've learned or takeaways that you had for games that you've worked on over the past, few years now that is kind of similar to the same way you went through and played these games in your childhood and took notes of the things you liked and didn't like, what worked and didn't work, and kind of inspired you to even take on that career in the first place? How does that kind of work now whenever you're taking on the next project?
It's damn. That's a lot of questions in one. So let me break it down. I mean, there's probably a bit of a distinction to make there between like what it's like to create your own title, your own company, and join in with other projects. When you start your own company, you've got, full creative vision and everything like that. You get to, really pour all of your ideas, all your soul, just all the things you want to see into the game and make it happen. Whether or not it's technically possible, that really becomes the only limiting factor there. And then when you basically, I guess, have a presence, a pre-existing presence in the industry. Obviously, that makes it easier to find a job there, but that doesn't mean that job will be a job that's necessarily as creative. And I think that like this is an idea that I should probably dispel, and that'll help a lot of people out there to hear this, is that, the game industry is not, as we like to imagine, 100% creatives, 100% people just being like, oh, I have an idea and I'm gonna turn it into a video game, right? It's about like realistically, like I think that like the best example of this and the most illustrative one, and the game that probably made like not nowadays not the most money, but like, okay, so the PC game that made the most money probably is Minecraft, and even then it might be dethroned by another title. But remember that Minecraft at the start was just a Java programmer who was programming Java and streaming, and on his live stream,
crazy
people were
story,
like, yeah. What if you put so you want to make a procedural world? Okay, that's. I mean, like you've kind of figured out a procedural generation and like, oh, okay, and like make a 3D engine, make it with like. So okay, it's just cubes, since you're doing the simplest thing, the simplest iteration of that, but like, okay, try to make it, make it kind of like the shape of a tree with those cubes and stuff like that. Oh, okay. Well, now, have creatures, spawn around the place where you are in the world, and then attack you and everything like that. And, bit by bit, it turned into a game. So the game preceded the idea, right? And a lot of people like to assume that it's the other way around. But I think that for a lot of titles, and especially successful ones, the code, the work, the crafts, the, let's say the grit, is going to be most of it, and is going to precede the idea. And you don't need a lot of ideas people in the game space. Ideas are a dime a dozen, but actually making a game is a lot more work and grits and than we like to assume. And there's less and less, and it really varies depending on the different part of the prism of the industry that you're in, because it ranges all the way from single developer making his title on his own to big mega corporation that has more salespeople than they do coders, and everything in between, of course. In all those different parts of the prism, ideas people are less and less relevant, or they've never been like that needed. At the very least, they're wearing multiple hats, right? They are a coder, an artist, and a guy who comes up with the ideas or the concepts or the mechanics, right? In the larger companies, you can have level designer, game mechanics guys, dedicated people that do just that all day. But in the majority of the industry, and the majority of the industry in terms of people, in terms of numbers of people, is really mostly indie. And in that space, you're talking about people who don't have offices and stuff like that, and where people within the either it's a company or it's an organization or whatever, they all wear multiple hats, 2 or 3 of them. And then perhaps several people on the team contribute ideas to the project and everything like that. I know that, in Sanctuary, that was the case. A lot of people were able to contribute to the mechanics that we wanted to implement. And a lot of different people on the team brought ideas to the table that we fused together into one cohesive, playable experience. But that's the first part of of an answer to the question. And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, also, you mentioned several times that you wear like different hats, different moments and stuff like that. What hat do you enjoy wearing the most? Where's your strength in? Excellent question.
Because as I started the project and as it started exploding and everything, I thought, okay, this is just as I imagined it would be. I'm gonna be a coder, and I'm maybe gonna do a little bit of art. Definitely gonna be doing some UI, which is kind of like the crossroads between art and code, and kind of what I found myself doing, as a profession before then. As the project moved forward, there was a lot of time requested on my behalf for managing the team, creating the community around the game, and starting to find investors and stuff like that. And as I was finding myself doing those roles and everything like that, I started to realize, hey, I'm actually not half bad at that, even though I've never done that before at all. Learning something on the spot like that and finding that you have a knack for it is quite an empowering feeling. And so I was like, I think I found my way here. And that was, another one of those very liberating moments, I would say, along with the whole lockdown thing. All that, finding my role within, I guess, the managerial space, all that happened post-lockdown. And very quickly, I didn't touch the code at all any longer. Didn't touch the art any longer, and even gave up on doing the UI for the game. Systematically, the people that I would recruit would be leagues better at doing each of these individual elements than me. And with a couple steps back, it's easy to be like, well, should have been obvious from the start, but you kind of have to, I guess, sometimes go through that process to realize that, it's better to have dedicated people for these things, specialized people that can do that really, really well, instead of you yourself trying to do it and do all those different things. I was trying to, do UI, art, code, and all that. When even the code, gets broken down into various elements, like, there's an end code, there's the part of the code that, is going to govern the modding. There's the code that, is responsible for handling, the animations. There's the pathfinding code that's, and every single, there's the AI, obviously. Every single person is very, very specialized, and it's better to have a specialized person doing that than trying to, having one person do it all.
So you're saying that you've strategized the game development of the strategy game?
There's a lot of strategy to putting out a game. Absolutely. Yes. And that's definitely one thing that I did want to add as part of the answer to the question that Jack asked me, is that there is something that, like, the games that I played taught me, when you're playing a strategy game like Supreme Commander, for example, defeating your opponent gets broken down into little blocks bit by bit in your head, right? And it's like, first I've got to, do this, handle this part of the problem, then this, and then at the long last, I'll be able to destroy his king piece, right? And it all, fits into a plan, a long-term plan, and executing that plan, it's a strategy and all that. All those, I guess, quote unquote skills. I don't want to overstate things, but those skills that you can learn from playing strategy games do bear fruit when trying to build a company. I think when trying to tackle the problem of putting out a product and making it valuable to people. There's a whole strategy. A strategy applies to, how are you going to market the game? How are you going to make it reach the most number of eyes possible with your limited resources? How are you going to manage the amount of money that you have, the resources that you have, to produce the best possible product? It's a whole thing, right? I guess, like, there's a whole bunch of different choices that you can make, and you're always going to be weighing the pros and cons of, for example, would it be better to use money to have an office space? Well, there's pros and cons to that, right? Because, like, you couldn't be face to face with the people that you're going to be working with. It's more interpersonal. You're going to be able to get a better connection with the people that you're working with, or potentially get more things done. But then, all that money could have been 3, 4, 5, 6 extra employees in the company. You gotta weigh those options and take your pick. It's like selecting which building you're going to build in the game. Is it a barracks, or is it a factory, right? I don't know. Maybe it's unfair to make that kind of a comparison, but I'd like to believe that it did, on top of influencing who I am as a person, it did influence the type of choices that I made, the type of way that I tackled problems. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think here at Critical Moves, actually, we've kind of taken note. You were just talking about how you're building a product and looking at the way these inspirations that we've asked you about before influenced your games, how I think we've noticed here at Critical Moves that some of your titles have used traditional RTS mechanics, or at least the ways they'd go about handling units and squads or buildings, and the way resource management is done. Is that deliberate on your part to kind of fall more in line with traditional RTS mechanics versus maybe something else you might see on the Steam store today?
Yeah, I mean, it was, so yeah, this was a passion project through and through. I knew going in that I wanted to make what I wanted to make and not what was popular, what sold best, and etc. I think, yeah, I really had. I mean, like I said, there was, a strong incentive, let's say, to get going on my dreams and do things my way, let's say. And so, yeah, for those reasons, I didn't compromise. For those reasons, I went into what I liked about games, what I like to play, and so, yeah. And I think, it panned out well. Obviously, it could have been one of those cases where, there's a really passionate dev who's banging out furiously his title, and he seems to be the only one who cares, right? He might have a super diehard fan, but like he has like one fan, right, and one follower, or a group of 10 people or stuff like that. And I was really mentally at a point where if that had been my case, I wouldn't have really minded. I would have been like, well, I'm really doing this for my passion.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't need, really that much external validation or whatever. In the whole thing, like I said, like I would have been fine with making a whole open source project and everything like that. I wasn't, earning a whole lot, but it was definitely enough to get by. I had sufficient free time off of work that I could, dedicate some of my hours in the week to making an open source project. But yeah, there was a question of like, I've got a passion within me. I've got a kind of like a fury within me, and I want to see this project through, and I want to see the light of day. And I'd followed a lot of different open source or also closed source projects, but like passion projects of devs that poured many years into it and didn't come to fruition. Took forever to make small strides of progress and everything like that. And so yeah, when I was kind of like confronted with that and confronted with the reality of like the project that I'm starting, even though it has, a dozen or so people that are interested in contributing and all that, it's really already slow and getting bogged down in a lot of talks and not a lot of doing. Whereas talk with Nine, and he puts together a demo, and I'm like, well, his demo's already got something really strong and really cool going. And so that became kind of my choice. Is like, okay, I want that kind of rate of progress. I want that kind of speed. If the choice here to obtain speed is to be for profit and closed source, then that's what I'm going to choose, right? And yeah, like I said, I can completely hear both sides of the story, but like, yeah, it's not often in life you're going to be able to ally or associate full on passion with something that can earn money, or at least down the line. But like, yeah, the idea with Sanctuary is that, or what I felt at least in the moment, is that was really what was happening. I should note that like perhaps it never really did, because to this day, Inheart Media and Sanctuary has not generated a single sale, so it has not yielded any profit. I never had a salary at Inheart Media. I was just pouring 100% of my savings into it, and of my time and everything. So I was just, I guess you could say it was 100% passion and not really work. Although, not really profit. Although, that is still up in the air. Time will tell. Perhaps one day it will make money. But you get the idea. I mean, like, it is possible, and I do wish that upon every soul on earth, it's a really, really, it's a really awesome experience. You should, find your missing puzzle piece, as Daniel Sloss likes to put it. I don't know if you know the stand-up comedian Daniel Sloss. Anyways, he has that expression that defines really the idea of like finding your one true passion in life, and it's a whole journey until you encounter it. It's not something that you have like right out from school, or right out from even like your first or second or third job. It takes quite a while to encounter it, but it's well worth the search. Anyways, sorry, tangent.
No, it's really good to hear your perspective on this. I'd say from when looking at ZeroSpace and Ablight, similarly as well, something that I notice from the footage that is out at the moment, at least, is the unit HP tend to be quite high in relation to the damage. So the battles are slow and they take time. I see this also with quite a few other games, RTS games out. Something like Stormgate and so on also tend to have this. Is this like a deliberate choice? Is this a result of like playtesting, or where's this coming from?
I mean, like, I don't know, perhaps the developers of the titles you mentioned, at least I know that Ablight in particular would take issue with being qualified as slow for their battles, but I think I see what you're going for there. It's a comparison with like StarCraft in particular, and how, quick-paced and short-lived the units are there. I guess maybe Age of Empires as well, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it's less I mean, definitely you could label it playtesting, but we already have existing playtests through the form of the other games that we've played and experienced and everything like that. And the designers of all these games, having used those games as influence and as kind of a starting point for theirs, are angling towards something more laid back, more chill, because they believe that that's what the public wants, and that's what they want, right? It's like they feel like, okay, I've had the tachycardia inducing experience that is StarCraft. I want something more chill now, and that's the real reason, really, I think. I'm not sure, like, you can entirely associate it with what happened for me in Sanctuary. For me, like, it was, obviously I was going for gameplay that resembled more, something more akin to, Total Annihilation, in particular, Supreme Commander. So yeah, I definitely felt like, I personally was more at home with battles that last really long, with, big honking units that take a whole lot of time to take down and everything like that. The reason why games like Ablight, which is essentially aiming to be a spiritual successor to Age of Empires, and games like ZeroSpace, which is a spiritual successor to StarCraft 2, are more slow, is because they definitely recognize that the public that they're trying to attract is fatigued with that kind of like high-paced play style, and they want something more chill. So yeah, that's what's happening there, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to retread ground talking about the same thing over again with how you kind of got inspired to make these games. I understand talking about the intention for them to be spiritual successors. I think I want to pivot into kind of between the titles you've worked on. Why don't you take this time to clarify to the audience who may be unaware with your titles in particular, like ZeroSpace and Ablight, kind of what the elevator pitch for those games are. What would you say in like a few short sentences? And then what are kind of the general larger differences in mechanics and gameplay between those games?
So the elevator pitch for ZeroSpace is really StarCraft 2 meets Mass Effect. I mean, that's really the way I like to pitch it. Yeah. So you know how like Mass Effect has this, big arching story with the main protagonist and everything. And your choices influence the kind of the outcome of the galaxy and how you're going to unite or separate different groups and everything like that. And, that's really 100% what it is, except, when it gets down to the clicky gameplay part of it, instead of being chest high walls, it's RTS. And, I just think that the mix there is genius. It seems much, much more intuitive when you think about it, because the whole choose the right destiny for the galaxy and everything is more of a thinking man's thing, right? And so is strategy, right? And so the two meld brilliantly together.
That's actually really funny, because on one of our previous episodes we talked about franchises we would like to see as RTS games, and we definitely mentioned Mass Effect there.
Yeah. Obviously, the team behind ZeroSpace is more angling towards, MMO, or massively multiplayer, angle as their main pitch. And that's really also a big element of it, because like there's a permanent galaxy map, which, all the players are going to be able to play on and influence. And I don't know if you ever got to play this, but there was a mod as part of Forge Alliance Forever that was called Galactic War, which was essentially that, right? You pick a faction at the start of the season, and you play as that faction on the galactic map. And over the course of a season, which could last about a month and a half, your faction would try to conquer the entire galactic map, right? It was a whole lot of fun. It was incredible fun. Like there was a great number of mechanics that allowed you as a group to help each other out, and everything. Yeah.
I don't know if you know. Have you ever heard of 0K?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I played it. I didn't play a Galactic War if they had one, but yeah.
They also had a Galactic War, and I don't know if it predates. It might have actually predate the
it's very possible.
Version.
It's very, very possible. But yeah. And it seems to be a recurring thing, because like when Planetary Annihilation came out, they also had a Galactic War. Now it wasn't a massively multiplayer one. It was the campaign essentially. It was. But yeah,
it's a really cool idea to have like persistent universe. That's a nice thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that can be done with that, and obviously like it's been Helldivers has done it, and a whole bunch of like more modern titles have done it to great success. So there's really something there. And so yeah, I think that those are like incredibly strong elements. All those three elements I mentioned. And as it stands, like the multiplayer, just PvP aspect of ZeroSpace is really, it's been finalized, I guess, for a year, and now like everything is just adding more factions, more units, changing the balance, making it more refined. But like the responsiveness of the units, of the pathfinding, of like the stickiness and tactileness of like the different abilities and how fun they are to use. It's been there really for quite a while. That part of the game is really kind of locked down and successful. I mean, it has incredibly positive feedback from all the players that have participated in the either open or closed playable weekends that we did. With like there were tourneys also as well.
Fun.
Yeah. We did like 2 of them that had a 10K prize. So yeah, and recently there was a completely open playable weekend where everybody could join in and try the campaign, try the skirmish, try everything. So yeah, the campaign is like the biggest thing that like is requiring a lot of work right now. And for that we're putting together lots of in-game cinematics and stuff like that. Yeah, it's quite bold considering we're more AA. We don't really have anywhere near the budget that AAA gaming does. So yeah, but it's coming along, and I really gotta say, like the multiplayer, PvP competitive aspect, is really locked down and has got a lot of people very, very, very satisfied with it. So yeah, there's that. It's not a given in the current landscape. I mean, like you saw how well Stormgate's public reception went. So yeah.
And I guess my next question is about what you mentioned with the multiplayer and the single player. I think that's something that's really quite tough to balance, even when it comes to the units, because sometimes a unit is really oppressive in single player or not fun to play, but then in the multiplayer it's important, or the other way around. And then also in how much attention you put to the game and how much feedback you get. I think you get like a lot of feedback from multiplayer players and more so than from single players, but then there tends to be way more single players than multiplayers. So I think it can be quite tough to balance it all. How do you?
Well, in terms of like, let's say active and vocal people, you can maybe say that, but like the reality is like statistics show over and over again that like the single players absolutely crush in terms of numbers, right? There's a lot more of them, but then that's not to say that like we don't have people in the Discord that are single player exclusively. There are a lot, and actually thanks to those people we get a lot of feedback on the campaign and stuff like that. So yeah, the multiplayer folk help us keep the game game's balance quite tight. And yeah, the single player folk help us fix all the bugs in the campaign. So actually, yeah, it works out quite nicely. Yeah, man, there's as it stands currently, I think there's probably slightly more multiplayer people in the ZeroSpace Discord. But yeah, I think when the game finally releases, the stats for the total number of players and everything will show that like it's a lot more single player people overall. Yeah, which I mean, it's always the
Discord
case.
The Discord is the place where multiplayer people go, right? Like that's a whole social element of it.
Yeah, and also like. Competitive PvP has experienced quite a bit of a downfall, and all those players tend to, since nowadays less and less people are into like the hardcore I'm gonna play all day kind of mindset, and like I'm gonna grind and be better and better and better and everything. And since there's less of those people, but they still want to play in a social setting and everything, they're more like bringing in new players and be like, hey, it's chill if you just want to, I know I'm like God tier and whatever, but it's chill if you just want to chill with me and we can play versus an AI and everything. And this is why the co-op mode in StarCraft has absolutely exploded. And this
and
is
they've all come to play beyond all reason.
No, but yeah, it's like co-op is where it's at. Is where the future of RTS is, I think.
We mentioned that earlier too. I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is why inside ZeroSpace we're focusing on that as well. We want to bring that same kind of like, there's a whole lot of content that you can chew through, and a whole lot of different scenarios and everything like that. So that's kind of like the one of the experiences that one of the really, like, it's taken us quite a bit of our time. So yeah, definitely a bigger chunk of what we're working on right now.
Cool.
So in the end, I didn't get to answer the question fully. That was the ZeroSpace part of the answer. But yeah, so Ablight, the elevator pitch, if you guys are at all interested, but I think you should be, because it's definitely probably more up your alley than a game that's going to be the spiritual successor of StarCraft. Ablight is, like I said, elevator pitch is more or less Age of Empires 2, but with a steampunk setting, and therefore, you have air units and stuff like that. So that style of gameplay, where you have like a randomized map, especially in 1v1 and 2v2, and you have to go out and explore the map, find the initial resources, like the first, fauna that you're going to go and hunt for food and stuff like that. And then the spreading out on the map, building a different bases, and teching up, going up through different levels of technology, both for the resource gathering and the production and the strength of the units that you produce, increasing their armor and whatnot. That's, essentially a Ablight in a nutshell. And I think it's a pretty strong proposal as well, going simply off of the fact that, like, really nobody else is competing in this space. I mean, you have, Microsoft, which has got, the whole space, right? But they don't do much with it. They just keep re-releasing the same game, and I'm pretty sure that the fans are like, well, this is nice, but like, what else is there? Can I do something else that scratches that same itch? And right now the answer is no, not really. And this is why, like, sure, with the new Age of Empires 4, the player numbers have dropped off incredibly sharply after release, and they all fell back into Age of Empires, I guess, Definitive Edition, which is the latest.
There was something like 0 AD, I think.
It's still around.
How well that's? Yeah, I'm not sure how well that's doing. One thing about Ablight, if you don't mind me poking a tiny bit, I think you're absolutely right with the competing with Age of Empires, and I'm really happy to see that more games enter that. And Ablight, I think, has a lot of really cool features. One thing that I'm missing, I feel like, is you say steampunk, but it doesn't stand out so much. The art style, how steampunk it is. It could be a bit more steampunk for me in the visual aspect.
Yeah. So the thing is with the Ablight project is that it's actually legitimately just coders on the team, and for the art that they already have, they've outsourced, and they're going to continue to outsource for the rest of it, right? And that is going to be basically the whole remaining budget, right? Because like the code is already there, right? In terms of like the pathfinding, all the mechanics and everything. It's a really robust code base. It's written in dots, fully multi-threaded, able to support any number of units. It's really, really performant and all that. But they're not artists. They don't have a budget right now because, not much of a budget because, they need to lock in the investor, and that all hinges on wish list, right? The investor's like, yep, you get past that number of wish lists, you got your money, but not until then. Essentially it's a pretty simple calculus, and I think they made the right choice. I mean, it's hard to make make that statement, make that claim for the John Doe, the player who's looking at the game and being like, well, actually, I'd like to have something nice to look at. You can say that your game is amazing and everything, but if what I see is the terminal iteration of Dwarf Fortress, then I'm probably not going to buy it, right? So I don't know. That's probably too much of a niche reference for people, but whatever.
I got it.
But yeah, the idea being, graphics do matter, especially for convincing prospective buyers for sales and stuff like that. And yeah, I'll be the first to admit that, like, right now it doesn't have the graphics, and there's a good reason for that. So yeah, I agree with the strategy there. It's something that I was a little bit more of a juggler, let's say, when it came to running Sanctuary. I made sure that we focused as much on the art as we did on the code. But I would tend to really agree with the strategy of making sure things are functional first and foremost, and art can always be tacked on afterwards. That's not an issue at all. So yeah, it makes sense to me personally. Of course, now the question is, can we sell that to the viewers? Can we convince them that, yep, you should get hyped for this because art is going to be added in. As it stands, the stuff that they have with the units and everything is not too bad, but I have been having quite a bit of echoes that go in that same direction of well, it's not super cohesive, or it's missing quite a lot, and it is, like, a lot of the buildings and stuff right now are just placeholders and stuff, so that shows, right?
Yeah, that's all right. I think steampunk is really cool. Like, it's a cool vibe, and it's something that can be a big driver, I think, for coolness. So I'd like to see more of that. Yeah. I
mean, yeah, it's a rich environment. Like, you can have wizards facing off against big mechas that are powered by steam, and it's quite a there's really room, there's ample room to get really creative there, and that's what I like about it. So I think that, like, both the developers on the team and the community are going to contribute a lot of ideas here. We already do have quite a lot of ideas for units that are upcoming, that are still being added into the game code wise. So yeah, lots of good things to come in that regard. But I do think that, yeah, once there is the required budget, the budget that we're looking for, then yeah, we'll make a big push into making the art more cohesive, more interesting, more immersive. Because yeah, it's definitely missing right now.
I mean, I think both the games you mentioned actually look pretty visually appealing to me. I mean, I'll be the first to side with Tim on this, that I'm not necessarily getting the steampunk vibe from Ablight, but I do think both of these have pretty great visual fidelity. I think the art on the terrain looks great.
Yeah. I mean, I personally prefer the term steampunk. The owner and main developer on the game wants to go for sewerpunk as a defining term. Yeah, which I feel like it's less of a seller, that term, but it gets more of the idea across. It's there's kind of in the same fashion as, like, Runeterra, or Runeterra is the world of League of Legends, which I was really unfamiliar with before Arcane came out.
Okay.
Because I was never much of a League of Legends player, but after watching Arcane, I was like, oh, this is quite rich. I mean, it's one of those shows where the auteurs, the artists that worked on this, were given an IP, and they were like, you know what, we're not going to let the IP dominate us. We have our thing, we have something to say, we have something to show the world. and we're going to show it no matter what. And they did it, and it blew everyone away, even though it's loosely related to the original IP, and that's always how it always ends up having good results. You could say the same thing for Andor. You could say the same thing for Better Call Saul, for example, which I personally take to be a better spin on the whole Breaking Bad universe than the original. So that's just my opinion, but
same with Andor, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. The director for Andor is famously pretty anti-Star Wars and everything. Like, it's not his bag, and it shows, and it fucking like really made for a work of art, right? I think the same really happened with Arcane. Like, it's a bunch of people who are like, you know what, we have a lot of skill, we have a lot of things that we can do and everything. Obviously you guys have a lot of pre-existing lore, but let's just kind of pick the best aspects from that and let's roll with what we come up with. And so anyways, the universe of Arcane is quite rich. They have kind of like a mix of magic, gears, possessions into a degree, mystical beings to a degree, and stuff like that. I think that's like the kind of vibe that we're going for here in Ablight. Really, is that kind of mix, that is esoteric mix. It's I don't know what the right term to define it is. Maybe there's not yet an existing term that we can go for. That's why, the closest I could think of was steampunk, but it doesn't really do it justice, right? It's not really the exact universe that Ablight is set in, but I think maybe now you get a better idea if I use like the Arcane parallel.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that as an inspiration. I think Arcane kind of has one thing it reminds me of is a older CRPG, Arcanum, right? I think that was a game by Tim Kaine that was kind of a mix of like magic fantasy and steampunk aesthetic, and I think that one was quite inspired. A lot of people really took a liking to that particular art style, and I see that kind of represented in Arcane.
Like, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, exactly. I was thinking that could be the term to define that particular genre. Instead of like steampunk, it could be called Arcanum. I don't know.
Yeah. And I totally empathize with you. I think we all either have experienced this somehow firsthand, or just generally being viewers of this industry. The whole investment situation, the way money flows, the way games are developed in that way. Everybody who's passionate about that kind of has their own story of being affected by that as the consumer. So I totally empathize with you there. I think it's always fun to ask a creative, though, if you had unlimited resources and budget, what would the game you'd want to make be? Like, what is your dream game to produce?
For me personally, or for the different projects that I work on?
I mean, maybe both answers would be interesting, but I think I would focus on you personally, simply so it's not necessarily in conflict with the type of games that these teams are probably producing right now. And like, I mean, we could talk about what features they would probably have wanted to implement, but I think that's probably a greater discussion for themselves and the community. So what's the game you'd want to make?
Wow. It's hard to answer that question. I think like really, honestly, there was nothing about Sanctuary that kind of fell short of my expectations in that regard. I mean, like, yeah, obviously we didn't have the budget that allowed us to produce it in a timely manner, I'd say. But in terms of like what I wanted to do, in terms of the art style, in terms of the feature sets and everything like that, pretty much we were hitting every note. I guess, it's yet to come out and we'll see what is missing or not. But the game I had envisioned with Sanctuary is pretty much it, really. It was through and through my dream game and really my baby.
Some live action cinematics?
I mean, this is something that like is it's personal taste. It's to each their own, really. I'm personally somebody who doesn't like, ever since I got the virus of multiplayer gameplay with, deep strategic gameplay, not tactical gameplay. I really make the distinction between games like StarCraft, which I believe to be tactical, and games like Supreme Commander, which I believe to be strategical. It's
that's exactly what I said in the last episode.
Well, there you go. But yeah, ever since I got that bug in me, I was much, much less concerned with everything that concerned campaign. I mean, like, to give you an idea, like, I played Supreme Commander obsessively for years. I would say at least 7 or 8 years, probably more. I played it to an obsessive level and continued to play it afterwards at a more reasonable level. I have yet to complete even one of the factions campaign. I think I played 3 or 4 of the UEF missions. I could not care less about the campaign. I've really reached a stage where, you might have a half decent story, but if it's not something to the level of, let's say, I don't know,
Warcraft 3.
Yeah, there's really very few games that are going to bring me in for the story. I mean, Skyrim had a decent story, I think, and even then it was like completely open ended. You can do whatever you want with it. I really, I understand that, like, I'd be making a product that's not just for me and everything like that. So I'd feel, the wishes and wants of a lot of different people within my fan base. But you have to understand that I'd probably be the wrong guy to take full creative control of something like a campaign within my own game. I wouldn't do it justice in any way, shape, or form, because I just don't have the passion for it. I just don't believe in that part of the game, and that's what I mean when I say that, like, there's so many different, like, for example, in Homeworld, there were so many different aspects that came together. It's like every single department, every single artist that was working on all these different aspects, the music, the visuals, the gameplay, the campaign, the story, all of behind each and every single part of that, there's a passionate person, and that individual's passion shows, right? And I think that's the right way to do it. So for an individual person to have unlimited budget, I think it's still the best for that person to be focused on what passions him the most, and he'll be like, okay, well, you guys can have, your 10 billion to do the cinematics or whatever. Yeah. And
so more something like matchmaking, maybe, like.
Yeah. Well, what would really make me passionate is, like, all the different features that I could throw at the matchmaking side of things. How creative you're going to be able to get with the options that the map that you generate will have, and that, like, how it's going to be persistent, perhaps, and then you have, like, players taking over on an existing match. What about, players being able to program in actions that they're gonna be taken over the course of the game? How about, like, the different players being able to share and delegate different aspects of the management of the macro, of the micro, to different members of the team, and adapt that as the game goes? How about, like, resume, at a certain state of the game, replace a player with AI, vice versa. There's an endless numbers of features that you could add there, and that's where I live, right? That's the place that I would be, focusing on, and just adding endless amount of features, right? that's what I would be doing with my unlimited resources, right? And I would be completely neglecting the campaign, for example, and the cinematic. So is it live action? Is it not live action? I don't even know, man. Somebody else is taking care of that. I don't care. But yeah, I don't know. It's questions like these where I don't even have the faintest clue of what could begin to be the right answer, right? Like which would be better, because one might assume live action is better, and then actually the answer is no, depending on tastes or what the majority thinks. Is it better to have an orchestratic score or make something synthetic? Which is better, and those are things that I don't have a strong opinion on. But like gameplay mechanics, things that touch the multiplayer aspect, I have strong opinions on those.
The live action part was a bit of a tongue in cheek kind of comment, but Getting to the end here, running a little bit low on time, but asking perhaps one more question for you, Tatsu. I think it's an important question. I think a lot of us carry this deep within our hearts. What's like a RTS tradition or a trope that you just would like people to please stop putting into their games, or maybe something that you see in some RTSs out there and then you wish that everyone would pick it up? We mentioned the strategic zoom earlier. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, obviously one that everyone should pick up is strategic zoom. I see that I'm not alone in being kind of annoyed at this, and it's like, obviously it's once you've experienced it, it's kind of, you can't really go back. I'm, able to play games that don't have strategic zoom. I find them difficult to play because of that reason. But yeah, what's a trope that people should let go of? I mean, it could be an answer that in the specific space of real-time strategy, right? Oh my god. Well, this is going to sound like pretty bad, but that's my personal take, is that cinematics are not necessary.
Nice, okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like it's something that I, am biased because of my experience as a game developer in the indie space. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't matter to me as much. But, those are just absolute huge money sinks, and you can use all that money to make the pathfinding better, create better AI, do so many things that would actually make the game be more successful or reach a broader audience. Not necessarily. I mean, cinematics do sell. But the idea is that it's a huge money sink. I personally find there's a huge sometimes disconnect between what's shown in the cinematics and what you actually play. And I feel like it would be nice if the two didn't feel so far apart. For me, it kind of breaks the immersion. I mean, it's nice to have something to throw yourself into and be like, okay, this is what this universe, the universe for this title, for this game is like. These are the characters. I'm getting to see them up close. I'm getting to know them better and everything like that. All that is really nice. But sometimes I feel like it comes at the detriment of the actual gameplay. And that's, simply for financial reasons. I mean, these things are really, games are expensive to produce in every respect, but cinematics are, I think, not a huge bang for buck. I mean, personally, that's my take.
It's a marketing thing, maybe.
It is. I mean, it's also a question of taste. Like, some people really, really swear by that. I mean, they're like, hey, if you don't have awesome cinematics, I'm not buying your title, right? Like, it really is a make or break for them. So yeah, again, to each their own. There's a lot of different people that have a lot of different tastes, a lot of different opinions and everything like that. And it takes a bit of everything to make a world, and all that, comes together as one community that buys the same games. So you're always appealing at least a tiny bit to a little bit of every single one of those different members. But yeah,
wow.
I mean, I wouldn't personally put that much money on it.
So speaking of marketing, we're now in the middle of Steam Next Fest June. Anything you want to say to our listeners at home?
Well, ZeroSpace, check it out. I believe we're going to be part of Next Fest June. Don't quote me on that, but I believe we are. And Ablight isn't. We're not ready for that. You need to have a demo to be able to be part of it. And we're not at the demo stage yet, unfortunately, for Ablight. We'll get there eventually. Give us some time, but we probably need like 6 months more to get there. But definitely do keep Ablight on your radar. It is well worth your time, I think. More to come on both those styles, but yeah.
Is the MMO aspect ready for the demo for ZeroSpace?
No, not yet. I mean, it's coming along. It's the map already exists. It's interactable and everything like that. The massively multiplayer side of it is not done yet. No.
No, I'm excited. I'm very curious to see what's going to come out of that. I'm very curious.
So am I. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining us, Tatsu, and Jack. Thank you for the really good questions. Anything else you want to plug or you want to let us know about?
Oh, that's it. I really do want everybody who's listening to open up Steam, find Ablight, wishlist it. Open up Steam and find ZeroSpace and wishlist it also. Yeah, the wishlists do help. The investment side of thing is something that you guys can contact me about for Ablight in particular. I mean, like, you don't have to have, hundreds of thousands of dollars. $5,000 or $10,000 will do the trick, and you can be a part owner of the project or the company. So yeah, definitely do reach out to me for that. But first and foremost, just wishlist those games. It means the world to us. That's
actually good to hear the insider information on how that actually impacts investments. All right. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, happily. Perhaps something to be repeated in the future when the games are in a new state, or there's something exciting to mention. This was another episode of Critical Moves, and Jack, Tatsu.
Bye bye.
See you. Great talking to you, Tatsu.
Yeah, have a good day. Cheers.